Hey, what's up guys? Tactical Pickle here, and today we're going to be actually taking a look at my vertical GPU mount mod that I did. There's been a couple requests for it in the comments down below, and I've actually wanted to do this since I actually put out the video on the water cooling kit because before I installed the whole water cooling kit, I didn't get a chance to mount my GPU like that because I wanted to make sure all the clearance and everything was good. And with the old cooler that I had, I was actually running into interference with the GPU. So one thing that you'll notice here is the side panel. I was running into a couple thermal issues after a while of use. My graphics card was actually heating up quite considerably. And so I decided to take the acrylic side panel, I taped it off, did all my measurements, and actually drilled a bunch of holes for better ventilation right in front of the fans here on the GPU. Now, it has improved my thermals quite drastically, but I'm not a huge fan of how it turned out. It does kind of detract away from the actual awesomeness of how the GPU looks. I didn't really account for the way, like with the thickness of the hole, when it's drilled through, it actually creates kind of a like an opaque look if you're viewing the hole at an angle. So it does kind of, if you're sitting like say where I'm at looking at this direction, it doesn't fully show the graphics card. It's not a huge fan of it. So I'm considering another option where I actually 3D print a bracket and mount a separate fan in this area over here that blows directly into the GPU to supply air in that direction. So that's just something I'm looking at and considering. So let's go ahead and pop this off of here. I'll set this down here and out of the way. Alright, so now that that's out of the way, so I'm using a new webcam. It's the Logitech C922, I believe it is. So the autofocusing I'm still working on, but looks pretty good from what I've seen so far. So back to this. So here's actually the mount that I created. This was actually just the, I should say, prototype mount. So I designed it in a program, and I'm actually going to cut to footage of it here in a little bit. I designed this mount here in a program called Tinkercad. It's actually a website. You sign up for it. It's free to use, and it's generally used for 3D printing. You can create simple to fairly complex designs that you can actually export directly into a 3D printing file, which I then can just load it up into my other computer and 3D print it, which takes a couple hours depending on the settings. But so this was just the prototype mount. I took some measurements. I had an old graphics card. I think it was a 66 or 660 Ti. That's what it was. And I used that, took some measurements, and I had actually purchased a easy DIY 16x flexible cable card extension port adapter. I believe it was what it was called. It's basically just a high-speed riser. A lot of good reviews on this on Amazon. It was like 30 bucks. It wasn't one of the cheap ones where people complained about the soldering. Had really nice solder on the actual PCI mount down here. Very nice. It was a lot longer than I was expecting, so it came out to be like that long, I think it was. So there's a lot of extra cable that's kind of tucked out and back, and it's semi-rigid, so there's a little weird folding that I had to do. And then for actually on the back, hopefully you'll be able to see here, on the back of the case itself, this area here was actually larger than on most other cases. So I had a lot of extra room, and that's the reason why I chose this case. It allowed me to actually do this mod as well as the whole water cooling kit. So I actually, in this opening back here, I took a Dremel, measured it out, and actually cut out a huge section. It's probably about that big of the actual fan mesh, similar to this right here. And then I designed a backplate. So this was the first attempt. This here, fairly simple. I just did it so that I could attach it to the grate with some fasteners. And did these large holes so that it gave me plenty of play to kind of move it up and down and left and right a little bit. And as long as I used a nut with a washer on it, it would secure it. And on this first iteration, though, I ran into a clearance issue right here with the GPU. I wasn't able to actually, because I connect through HDMI to my TV that I'm using, and the HDMI ports are at the top here, and they are actually striking this top part here. So I redesigned the bracket to actually eliminate this whole section here, added a hole up here so that I can actually mount the GPU directly to it, just to keep it from, moving it. So it's nice and stable, keeps a lot of the pressure off of the actual PCI-E port, as well as on the graphics card itself. Without it, all the weight was actually rested right on where basically the PCB board that attaches into the PCIe. And on a very expensive graphics card like the GTX 1080 Ti that I have here, RS Edition, I didn't want to risk that breaking because it's an expensive card. And yeah, so I was able to redesign the bracket to fit perfectly, installed it in the back here, printed it in black so it matches the rest of my case. At some point I do need to clean it up. I had to actually bend up this here because I was running into an issue with feeding the graphics card in and getting it to seat properly. So yeah, so that was pretty much how the whole process worked for me. I didn't do a video on the whole step-by-step process of me doing it because it was really experimental. I've never done anything like this before, and I wanted to make sure it worked first. I wasn't going to shoot a whole video of it and have it turn out not working. So what I'll do is I'll actually link the files down below. Maybe I'll upload them to like another website that I look at is Thingiverse. That's another place where people actually post a lot of their 3D designed objects that you can 3D print. Another cool thing about that site is during my case review on this case, I talked about how it didn't have, it only came with one SSD tray, and I had two. And I forget how much it is to purchase one from Fantex to add a second SSD tray. But given that I have a 3D printer, I actually went on to Thingiverse and I just typed it in, and lo and behold, there was actually somebody had already created a design for it. And yeah, so I just downloaded the design and printed it, and it fit perfect. I got my SSD mounted in the back, secure, black, looks good. You know, it didn't take a whole lot. I actually asked the dude if it would be cool if I showed that in the video, so I'll actually pop that up and here in a second, maybe overlay. I'm still figuring out how to properly do the different overlays and transitions and cuts and all that. So, all right, so here we go. Here we are in Tinkercad. So this here is actually the bracket that I designed and 3D printed. This is actually an updated version. So the one that I have currently installed was the prototype, basically. And some of the issues that I was running into is on here on the cursor, actually, these holes here, I had to drill through on my original bracket to install. Same with this location here. So on the updated bracket that I have right here, I actually slotted it out similar to what I did on the back plate, so that it would allow for excuse me, fasteners in play for you to mount in the different locations on, say on my case where the holes were located. So I added those in, which gave me a little bit of freedom to move it around and get my alignment right. Now these holes here are very similar, same idea. This is where the PCI-E cable will actually sit here, right along this backside here with the graphics card above. So I did the same idea, slotted those out so that there is movement forward and back, depending on your alignment and clearance, at least with my case, that's what I did. And then also right here, I actually, I notched it out so that when it's the PCIe Express card, PCIe extension cable was actually mounted, this part right along here where it's cut in or chamfered was actually allowed clearance for the soldering on the side of the actual bracket. So that's what that's there for. Pretty cool stuff. Alright, so here we are with the back plate. So this is what I was talking about, how I actually changed it to notch it out up top here so that I had full access to all my ports on the back of the graphics card. Pretty easy, simple design. I wanted to make it thick but not too thick so that I didn't run into any issues with it's actually below the area here for some reason. Well, there we go. So pretty simple program to use, really fun. It's all done in the browser at tinkercad.com. Saves all your designs, bunch of different stuff you can do in it, and you can actually open up other projects. Like if you had gone to Thingiverse and downloaded one of their projects, you can actually open it up inside Tinkercad and change it, modify it to what would work best for you. And since I have a 3D printer, I've done that with other objects, and obviously I've designed my own things as well. And I love the flexibility that owning my own 3D printer offers me in creating mods like this. Alright, so now that I got the side panel back on, with this not turning out the way I like, I'm considering actually replacing this, like I was saying, going back to just the straight acrylic panel and either figuring out a mod for attaching a, designing and 3D printing a fan bracket so that I can have a dedicated fan right here blowing at it. Or what I might do is cut out this whole section here and create a 3D print a bracket that I can actually install maybe at each of the corner here that would, just a square bracket that would go around it and actually hold a, I don't know, maybe a piece of mesh or something, just to clean it up a little bit. I don't know how I feel about it. I mean, it provides a lot of good airflow. I don't have any thermal issues, but like I said, it kind of detracts away from how it looks. I mean, let me know what you guys think in the comments below of, how the holes look. I tried my best to get them as straight as possible. I think I did a pretty good job on that. What do you guys think? Is it too distracting? Do you think it looks fine? Do you think it looks cool? Let me know down in the comments below. And if you have any other questions about this, let me know. I'll do my best to answer in the comments. I answer all my comments. And if not, I could do a follow-up video. You may be talking a little more about the bracket. Maybe I could 3D print one and have it physically in hand. I could take this apart and actually show you what I did. Let me know down in the comments below. As always, guys, thanks for watching. Let me know what you thought of the video. If you like it, go ahead and hit that like button. If you haven't done so already, hit that subscribe button. We're getting closer to the 50 subscriber mark, which a awesome user actually suggested at 50 subscribers that I do a tour of. Oh, my virus protection is out of date, so I need to fix that. But an awesome user actually suggested that maybe at 50 users, 50 subscribers, that I actually do a tour of my entire setup here. Maybe go through what I use and just everything. Show you the 3D printer setup and everything. So as we get closer, I think I'm at 46 right now, so we're fairly close. So hopefully that video will come soon. And as always, guys, thanks for watching. Hit that like button, subscribe if you want to. If not, leave a comment down below. Let me know what you thought of the video. As always, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next video.